Om Shri Sai Ram, offering our most humble and prayerful salutations at the lotus feet of our beloved Master, Bhagwan Sri Sathya Sai Baba. It gives me great joy to continue this saga and bring you a new chapter of our educational institutions unfolding. So before that, may I request, join me please for the prayer. O Lord, take my love and let it flow in fullness of devotion to Thee. O Lord, take my hands and let them work incessantly for Thee. O Lord, take my soul and let it be merged in one with Thee. O Lord, take my mind and thoughts and let them be in tune with Thee. O Lord, take my everything and let me be an instrument to work for Thee. Sairam to one and all, and welcome again to the next episode of his story through the eyes of his boys. So far, we have gone through the story of Ved Shala and how it became the first Ishwarama High School. And we have also seen some glimpses of Vrindavan days, how the campus started. Today, I have the pleasure of having few brothers who had the privilege to be the first batch of Ooty School. They would give us, and we'll have the pleasure of listening to that story, of seeing how Bhagwan started the first ever residential school for the tiny tot. A first experiment into the Gurukul system at that age, and a challenge for the devotees to send their children so far off. So without further ado, let me have the pleasure of inviting all the brothers. I have Brother G.V. Prabhakar. Sairam, Brother Prabhakar.
Sairam.
We have Satish Kumar Putta,
Sairam.
Pratish Kumar Dubey, and
Sairam.
Gaurav Khanna.
Sairam.
Sairam, everybody, and welcome to this episode. Let me have this pleasure of quickly introducing each one of you for the benefit of all our viewers. Brother G.V. Prabhakar, he started, of course, they're all from the first batch, which is 1978. And they have continued to study there for some time. And G.V. Prabhakar, he finished his 12th grade in Prashanti before moving to Anantapur, his hometown, where he did his MBA and PhD. And later on, touring from the Middle East, he settled in the United States. And presently, he's a professor in the New York Institute of Technology. And he also handles the responsibility of the director of accreditation and maintenance. So welcome, G.V. Prabhakar.
Sairam.
We have next Satish Kumar Putta. Brother Satish has also from the first batch, and he went on to do his MFM from Prashantanilayam, and he left the campus by 1997. And then he went on to do many things, and he was finally in Kuwait as a commercial project manager for Siemens. And presently, he's come back to Bangalore. So welcome, Satish, brother.
Sairam, brother.
And Gaurav Khanna. Brother Gaurav, he's from Delhi. He did his MBA. He finished his MBA from Prashantanilayam. I would say he's also one of the person who started and finished with the whole course. He's presently in Delhi as managing director at Kanjimul and Sons Jewelers. Welcome, Gaurav.
Sai Ram. Thank you.
And last but not the least, we have Pratish Kumar Dubey from UK. Pratish also first batch of student. He finished his MBA by 1995, and after MBA he has been doing a lot of things, and presently he's a MD for Kuber Capital Limited, and he's presently based in UK. So welcome, Pratish. I
Sairam.
Sairam to all of you, and thank you all for taking your time and willing to share the beautiful stories of our Bhagwan and your life with the divine. So let me start off with GB Prabhakar.
Sairam.
So Prabhakar, please say a few words of your introduction and tell us how did this avatar enter your family?
Pranams at the lotus feet of our beloved Swami. The fact that you say Genesis, I think it's very appropriately named because it's the genesis of all of us and our families, and I'm sure for the future generations as well. So my journey with the Swami started off before the Ooty school because my mom and dad, both of them were Sai devotees, and they took me to Parthi several times before 1978. And we had, of course, I never knew the grandeur of Bhagwan, and I was too small to comprehend any of that. But the best part was the festivities, the bhajans, the singing, and the dancing, and all the cultural activities that went on there. So that was the time when we got introduced to Bhagwan, and we had been there several times because I'm from Anantapur as well. And all the credit to my parents and their Purva Janma Sukruta, as you call it as, and their prayers that I got this initiation. And
Excellent. So I think it was your father's interest
right,
and
absolutely.
his spiritual orientation that brought you there.
Yeah, and one of the most important things I recall from my dad was in one of his interviews. I don't recall too much, but he had Swami had told him, "Nen chuskuntan." So he continues to do that till today for my whole family, for each one of us, and small things, big things. He still sees, he oversees everything. He just doesn't see, he oversees everything. He just plans it out, and we're playing our parts. That's it. Yeah.
Wonderful. Thank you, Prabhakar. And I think I'm sure this picture would remind a lot how you started your journey with Bhagwan.
Yeah, that perhaps is the most memorable moment. And I even tell my students today in classes, wherever I've taught, that those 12 years of stay in Ooty and in Prashanti were everything to me. And it doesn't really matter whether you have those designations, titles, and recognitions outside. They really don't matter at all, because staying with Swami and every moment in Swami's schools and also with the teachers, there's nothing that comes close to it, and it'll never.
Beautiful. I look forward today to hear more
Sure.
inside stories of
Sure,
Ooty
brother.
days. Sure. So Satish brother, welcome. And let us
Sairam.
hear your side of story. How did you got introduced, your family got introduced to Bhagwan?
My grandfather was a devotee, and my father also had come to Prashanthi Nilayam quite a few times. I believe grandfather was getting interviews whenever he came there. He's from a place called Hindupur, which is 75 kilometers from Parthi. And when my mother came into the family, she got married into the family. She got very devoted, seeing Parthi and all of this. Swami also named me in 1972. Uh, and that was what I got to know. And in 1978, of course, we'll be sharing about it.
So
joined
you got introduced with your parents. So parents had any interaction with Swami before?
Father had interaction with Swami before his marriage, but parents no, not till much later. And grandfather had. So even when Swami named me at the when my mother was carrying me in holding me in the darshan lines, grandfather got an interview, but she was not able to go inside.
So Swami named you in the room when
No,
you were with your
in the
mother.
darshan in the darshan line.
Oh, in Darshan line itself, he named you.
He's in the
So
Darshan.
beautiful. Okay.
Yeah.
So Satish Kumar is your name given by Bhagwan.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful, wonderful. Good to hear that. It's a pleasure. So we look forward to hearing more stories from your side too. Thank you, brother. So Gaurav, so please
Sir,
tell us about your side of the story.
well, Swami visited Delhi in March 1972, and an aunt of my mother uh, was very devoted to Swami and insisted that my mother become a Sevadal. Swami was that time staying in an old devotee's house, Sohan Lalji. He was very fond of him. And my mother and father used to go regularly for darshan and did Sevadal service there. And that was the initial love bug that they kind of liked, seeing Swami and interacting. And then in June, um, they went to Vrindavan. At that time, in Vrindavan, the devotees used to come and Swami used to give them breakfast and lunch and dinner. So they would be there the whole day. And that's when they interacted very closely with Swami and they got to see Swami's miracles. And my on one of these afternoons, Swami, just out of air, took out a statue, a frame of Shidi Baba and Swami, and gave it to my father. And that was perhaps a turning point where my dad was bewildered. Uh, what had happened suddenly out of thin air, and he gave it. And that's when he started getting more staunch, and the journey actually began there. And then it rolled, and we got closer to Swami, and we went to the Ooty school in the first batch.
Excellent, excellent. So this is the picture, right?
That's the picture. That's
Okay,
what was
okay.
given in 1972.
Okay. So I think your parents got initiated to Swami through service. So he made them first
Through
into the
service,
service mode.
which
Beautiful.
they're doing till date. They're doing till
So we're
date.
looking forward to hearing more such insights. So thank you, Gaurav.
Certainly.
So Pratish, welcome.
Yeah, thank
So
you.
tell us how your family got introduced to Swami.
Yeah. So thank you, Bhaiya, and respected listeners. My father was the first person to come to know of Swami. Hailing from Banaras, he was a very spiritual being right from his very young days. And when he was studying for his MSc at the Government Agriculture College in Kanpur, one day on the occasion of Holi 1969, his principal called him aside and asked him to meet him later. And he then invited him to his residence. And at that residence, the principal had invited all the faculty members and one student, and that was my dad. Squadron leader Kapoor from the Indian Air Force was coming to speak on that occasion. And Squadron leader Kapoor spoke about Swami. My father says that the very first talk he heard of Bhagwan, he immediately realized here was God in human form. And there was a great desire generated in him to visit Swami. So this was, Holi 1969. And when he finished his MSc thesis, he kept some money aside for his trip to Puttaparthi immediately after he completed his studies. As things happen, he happened to spend a lot of money from that small kitty that he had put aside, and he was left with only rupees 30 when he submitted his thesis. But he was determined to come and see and have Swami's darshan. So he decided he would, buy a ticket up to the extent that the money would permit him, and then he would walk the rest of the distance. But while he was on his way to the station, a thought came in his mind that he should tell his professor and principal that he was visiting Prashantinilam. So he went to both their residences and told them that he was planning to go to Puttaparthi that day. And their wives gave him 10 rupees each. So he now had 50 rupees. And that was more than sufficient to cover, his ticket right up to Dharmavaram. But he
So
had
when
a
Swami
friend
has to call, Swami has
when
to
Swami
call,
has
he
to
will give you
call.
some kind of excuse, right?
Absolutely.
Just bring it
When
in.
he calls, he ensures he equips you as well. And he had a friend in working with Rockefeller Foundation in Hyderabad. It's today ICRISAT. So he sent him a telegram just to let him know that he was on his way to Puttaparthi. And to cutting a long story short, when he reached Hyderabad, the friend knew my father and knew his family situation. He had actually made arrangements for him to be interviewed for a job at Rockefeller Foundation. So my father, broke the journey, gave the interview, got the job, and so his journey was delayed by a few months to Swami's lotus feet. But a few months later, when there were a few holidays, he decided he would travel to Puttaparthi. And the very first darshan, Swami, his very first visit, very first darshan, Swami picked him up for an interview. And he was very fortunate to get an interview, first darshan.
So I think that's how he hooks you and then starts cooking. That whole thing starts out. Excellent. Now I brought all of you on the floor together because I wanted to open this discussion so that we could hear stories from your side. Very interestingly to say that you were the first batch of formal school, if I may put it, wherein children from all over part of the country were invited. So if you can share with us, how did this Ooty school concept was announced, and how did the whole thing happen? How did you guys, were prompted to join? I'm sure your parents have done the job, but your stories of that part. So when did Swami really made an announcement, if anyone?
Yeah. So Swami made the announcement in November 1977 in Vrindavan. Actually, it was Dr. Bhagwantam who made the announcement. My parents had decided to visit Puttaparthi for Dashera in October 1977. And Dashera in 1977 was towards the later half of October. So we first went to Shirdi, had darshan of Shirdi Baba, and then we came to Puttaparthi to have Swami's darshan. And after Dashera, Swami went to Vrindavan. In those days, he used to spend most of his time in Vrindavan. And my parents, they were in two minds, whether to continue and stay on for a few more days in Puttaparthi or to go to Vrindavan or, return home. My birthday was near. It was on the 1st of November. It's on the 1st of November. So my parents decided that because my birthday was around the corner, we would go to Vrindavan and hopefully celebrate my birthday over there. So we went to Vrindavan, and that was the occasion when Swami wrote Om for me on 1st November 1977. And, those days there were not many people around taking photographs, but that day there was a photographer who took the photograph and, later on gave us the photos. And my parents stayed on for a few more days. And it was during that time that Dr. Bhagwantam, one of those days after 1st November, he made the announcement.
Pratish, you had shared this picture of Omkar, which Swami wrote for you. Okay,
this is cool. The Omkar, Swami. So Dr. Bhagwantam made the announcement that Swami is going to start a school in Ooty. And as with Bhagwan, everything was planned. He picked the principal. So Dr. Bhagwantam said anybody wanting to send their kids should meet Mrs. A.K. Verma and submit an application. So, my parents met Mrs.
So this
Verma.
announcement was done in Vrindavan, right?
This announcement was done in Vrindavan, yes.
Vrindavan, yes. During Dashera festival.
Just after Dashera festival.
After Dashera, okay. So your parents got involved and picked up the application and applied?
No, the interesting story is my parents met Mrs. Verma and she said that we had to submit an application. So my mother and father, they wrote the application and gave it to her. And what would happen is every evening and morning when Mrs. Verma sat in the darshan line, she would hold all the applications that she had received that day. And Swami would bless and move. It just happened that the day my application was given, it was the only application. So as Swami came near Mother, we used to address Mrs. Verma as Mother. As Swami came near Mother, she held the application. And this time, instead of blessing, Swami took the application. So, Mother immediately sent word through Sevadal.
Wonderful. So you are the first application he picked it up, huh? What about Satish and Prabhakar and Gaurav? How was, I think Gaurav
Oh,
came later. So Prabhakar, Satish, how did your application start?
what my parents tell me is that after they submitted the application, I believe there was no way, at least for the initial year, with all the logistic problems, that they could have conducted an interviews and things like that. So they gave the list of all the names to Bhagwan. I believe it was around 300 names, and Swami ticked the names of children apparently randomly. And then he said, told someone, count how many people are there. And they counted, it was 42. And Swami said, this is the list for the first batch. First batch, 42 is enough. And my name figured in that. So this was sheer Swami's grace.
Do you recall your roll numbers?
Yes.
Mine was 32.
Pratish, yours?
18. I was roll number 18.
18. Prabhakar?
Mine was 4, and all that I recall is that Swami had ticked our names, and that was what mattered most. And then because my parents had said all the beautiful things that we saw in Parthi, we'll see better things in Ooty, and then the nature that's there, and all that we can enjoy there. So I was actually looking forward to going there, and I was very happy that I got selected. Yeah, not knowing that I'm going to stay away from parents, actually.
I think that brings me to the next question. Is like, okay, so basically I'm sure because you're so small, you could not make any decisions. But at that age, it is very important for the parent to prepare the child to go there, because that's how the psychology is. Otherwise, the child won't know what to do. And so how was the preparation with you, Prabhakar?
The preparation was very exciting. I mean, they told me that all that you get to see in Prashanti Nilayam, you will find it all there, the cultural festivities and stuff. Beyond which, it was about Ooty and the nature and the elephants on the drive towards Ooty. They made it super exciting. And also they assured me that because it's Bhagwan's school and because it is Swami's school, that it also means safety in every sense, and you'll get the perfect care. So you'll be really taken care of, to the point that they made me believe it'll be much better than home. So
Wow.
yeah, and my father had a ransom threat that they're going to kidnap me in Anantapur, because he was well-to-do and he was pretty famous, making tons of money then. So they wanted to kidnap me apparently, and my father could think no farther than Swami School as the best place, both spiritually, educationally, and even safety-wise. So it was an obvious choice for him, and they made it an obvious choice for me because the preparation was really good.
So father had multiple motives to send you, and they made it everything beautiful.
Yeah.
Pratish, what about you? I believe you had an exciting going there.
Yeah. So my father was a scientist at the Central Rice Research Institute in Cuttack at that time, and it was taken for granted that all scientists' children would study in Stuart School in Cuttack. So my parents, applied to Stuart School in Cuttack, and I gave the entrance. But what happened was that I had been used to practicing on slate with chalk and on the slate, and the exam was pencil and paper. So I refused to answer the questions that in the question paper. The invigilator tried hard to make me answer, and I just refused to answer. So when they when they returned us to our parents, she told the invigilator told my parents that she could guess that I would have gotten if I had answered the question paper. But because I had not answered, they could not consider me. But she said, Stuart School in Bhubaneswar is having an entrance in 2 weeks' time. So why don't you just make him practice on pencil and paper, and he will surely crack that exam. And true to the word, I went and gave that exam, and I finished it in a record time, so early that they even had time to actually mark my answer script. And when they marked it, the school was so sure that somebody with this performance had to be admitted, would definitely get admission. So they went and told my parents that I was in, and they said, you've come all the way from Cuttack. Why don't you just pay the fees today and go back? That was a Saturday. And they said, just pay the fees. You don't have to come back on a Monday and confirm the seat. So my dad checked his pocket, and he felt 10 rupees short. He was not prepared for that. So they went unprepared that they would be asking for the fees that day. But he checked his pocket, and he felt 10 rupees short. And when they came home from Bhubaneswar, there was a letter lying. And that letter was from Ooty. It was from Mrs. Verma, mother, confirming that I had got admission in Ooty. So after that,
So the 10 rupee was actually the excuse for you not to be there.
not to be there. Yes, and
Wonderful.
my
Wonderful.
maternal grandparents, everybody was thrilled. So it was,
Wonderful. Good. Satish, how about you?
My parents had prepared me quite a bit. Will you go to Ooty? It's a different place. It's a boarding school. Your education will be very good. Swami will take care of you. And every time they asked this question, I always said yes. Nothing registered of all they asked, but I only said yes because I could see joy in their faces. And I think the intensity with which they asked it, I think now I can remember, because I think later Swami chose my name, and obviously I should not now say I will not go. And I think with that intensity they were asking it, so there was no way I could even say no. And that was very
You
good.
just went with the flow with the parents.
Yes, we just went with the flow.
Excellent. Gaurav, what about you?
So my parents had gone for summer course in 1978. And in May, after the summer course, they asked Swami that we'd like to put our child in your educational institution if something is coming up. And then Swami told them about Ooty. They had no knowledge. So Swami said, I'll give admission, put him in Ooty. And then he also instructed that I have two cousins, my Chacha's sons. He says, tell them also to join Ooty. So three of us, Rishi said, Gautam said, and myself, we were in 15 days found ourselves in Ooty, in the Ooty school. I can't say it was easy. Initially, we thought going to a boarding school is fun, is picnics and new friends, and the parents won't be there to sort of scold you.
To monitor
But
you.
to monitor you. But eventually, when we landed there, homesickness gripped us. It was new surroundings, homesickness. It was a different atmosphere. No way to connect with your parents, your cousins. Your world.
How was the
suddenly
handover?
changed.
How was the handover, if I may ask you at the same time? Because I'm sure Swami, everything he does, he trains people, he puts the environment in the right place. So when you go there, I'm sure, what did you find? What kind of teachers? What kind of reception? If you recall talking to your parents, I'm sure. If you can give us a glimpse into that.
Certainly. So when we went, we were terribly homesick, and as in our world had suddenly changed overnight from having the comforts of home, and suddenly it was a different world. But I must give the credit to the teachers. Absolutely, they made us feel at home, loved, cared, and they extended that extra hand. If somebody wanted to eat a chocolate, he would get it. If he was feeling low, they were there to tell a story to him. And in every way, they made you feel comfortable. Often at night, because we were used to, we were at the tender age of 7 and 8. And not hearing your parents suddenly for 3 months is a lot. So I would.
Partition all were at 5.5 years, right? So
Yes.
it's not going to be easy for any one of you.
Yeah, it was.
But
What
Satish,
also,
when you joined, Swami was not there, obviously. So basically, only teachers were receiving you people. How was your impression of that time, Satish?
For me, it was something called an anticlimax. I don't think devotees will be very happy to listen to this. So, so we landed there, and there was a long queue. There I could see parents with child one by one, and there were some couple of tables. Teachers were checking the bags. Parents were filling some forms, and then I think the child was taken inside, and parents were told to leave. And that's the time it hit me. Oh, this is what a boarding school means. Parents are going to leave me here and go. And that's all the few months of preparation it kind of registered at that time. Then I saw children, the child who was taken away, if the child, he or she cried, uh, they were pulled away and put into a room. But children who didn't cry could spend a little more time with their parents. And some sort of survival mechanism kicked in, and I decided not to cry there at that time. So once I got inside, it was, the world had collapsed, looks like it. And that's the first night I slept alone. And I was, next day morning, I asked for my parents. They said they're down in the town there below the hill. They will come by afternoon. And afternoon, they said evening. Evening, they said next day morning. Morning, they said afternoon. And I kept looking down the hill continuously, as much whenever you could get little time. Every auto, every taxi, if it came up, is it my parents? Is it my parents? And 3 days later, our warden auntie who was there, she broke the illusion and she says, Satish, your parents are not going to come for a few months till vacation time. And I don't know what I heard. Everything was blank after that. And I think I told myself, now I need to be independent. And that was
Oh gosh.
much later.
Prabhakar, how was yours?
Yeah, mine was more of excitement for a few days because I was still hoping something is going to unfold, and of course I was bewildered seeing so many people cry and the kids cry, but I didn't, because my excitement was maybe larger than real life. And to be honest, like how Brother Gaurav was saying, the teachers were so kind, so loving, so they did their job with dedication, devotion, and discipline that Swami talks of, and they made us forget our parents pretty soon. So I never had that kind of. I don't have memories of feeling very down. Homesickness,
Excellent.
definitely, we miss our parents, we miss everyone, but that wasn't much of a problem for me, and I was pretty happy in Ooty, and I just got
Excellent.
used to everything.
Satish, did you cry?
Uh, I don't recollect. I mean, as like other brothers have said, I saw the joy in my parents' face. I still remember that joy in their face when I got admission into Ooty, and I'm pretty sure they prepared me well to join Ooty. And my grandparents were also maternal grandparents were extremely delighted to know that I was going to a very good school.
So you
So
both
I
were
don't,
you both were excited to go in there.
so I don't have any recollection
Excellent.
of feeling homesick or cry. But there must have been the usual normal a five
That's
and a half
fine.
year old
That's
would
sure,
feel,
sure.
but
So
no
Gaurav,
lasting.
so how did you cope up with that? What was your defense mechanism, if I may put it in that way?
It was firefighting. When you were thrown in new surroundings, there was fear. Fear led to latching onto teachers, their love, and they became the conduit towards faith and prayer to Swami. And prayer to Swami initially was comforting because you didn't have parents. So when you prayed, you felt a sense of comfort. You could give your problems to Swami, you could ask for help, and you felt a sense of soothing. And here I must thank the teachers again and our
Who was
parents.
your who was your teacher? I believe you are in different
Uh,
classes, right? Yeah. So
I
Gaurav
was
was in
in
third
the
grade.
I was in third when I in '78, and Muni ma'am was Muni sister was my first teacher,
Your
class
teacher.
teacher.
Okay. Hmm.
Yeah.
Satish, who
So
was yours? Sorry, carry on, Gaurav.
so there, I mean, they were the conduit who led us to faith and prayer in Swami, and soon that faith and prayer in Swami became a way of life. There was a problem, you would pray, and you would say, Swami, please help, please take care, and you felt a soothing balm, which is, I use this technique till date. I'm in business, there's a problem every day. At some time when you're at your wits' end, you tell Swami, Please
You
take care.
take care.
So
Okay.
it really went into the bloodstream.
And I can add
Satish,
something
who was your teacher? Oh, sorry. Yeah, Prabhakar, go on.
I can add something to what Gaurav was saying actually, because he came with his two cousins, Gautam and Rishi. We always envied him that he had his close cousins, to put a shoulder against, and we didn't have
Correct.
anybody to call our straight cousins. So I remember that feeling very vividly. Yeah.
All right.
Okay. So, Gaurav, you had advantage. You not only had good teachers, but you had your
Yeah.
own kind of a fallback
Cousins.
mechanism. Okay. So,
Correct.
Satish, how did you take it up?
Uh, Initially, it was difficult, but what happened was the teachers' love and care and concern I made me forget everything. And when I came back for the first vacation, my mother tells me that I forgot the mother tongue. I forgot to speak in Telugu, and so it is that to that extent, they covered it up. So our teachers were, class 1 was Prema sister, class 2 was Saroja sister, and she had they two were sisters, and they had a third sister called Nirmala. She was the assistant warden. So there were three of them together. We had a in-house doctor auntie, Mrs. Tangamma. A.K. Verma was a principal. Muni auntie joined a little later, and the father of these three sisters, Nirmala, Prema, and Saroja, he was the caretaker of the campus, Mr. Nanjananka. So, and it was a lot of freedom. I think the way mother managed the whole place was phenomenal. There was a lot of nature.
I have actually read one of your articles, Satish, in which you have pointed out a kind of a term you used is a vishad, an
Yeah.
extreme sense of sorrow
Yeah,
you
actually,
went through.
yeah, this
I would like to
this
spend 2 minutes on that actually, and just to hear from you.
this experience actually of going to Ooty kind of dented my psyche. I could even much later I remembered it quite vividly, and once much later when I analyzed this more intellectually, uh, before that, one of our wing teachers had mentioned that I believe Swami told in one of the groups to them, don't think that your devotion is holding on to me. I am holding on to you. And this is what I felt. Oh, yes, Swami has brought me here.
Beautiful. Repeat
So
again, please. Please repeat.
don't think that you're holding on to me. I'm holding on to you. If I leave you, you'll be somewhere else. You will run away
Wow.
somewhere else. So this was kind of a hook which I got in. And then when you kept reading things, the first shloka of Ramayana came out of Vishada, which Valmiki was really pained. The first chapter of the Bhagavad Gita was Vishada
Vishal.
Yoga. When a seed is planted, it loses identity in the soil first before the shoots come out. That's the pain.
Beautiful.
So that was what I kind of related it to. And of course, it took me. You can see that where all these texts and have gone. So that was my experience also.
See, what I find interesting with four of you is that similar experiences, but quite apparent, distinct outputs. Like Prabhakar and Pratish kind of took it in a stride differently, and they were quite normal. Gaurav wanted a sheltering environment, he got that, and that care and comfort which he craved for, he still has it. And Satish, you wanted an independent, secure, self-confident being, you got that. So what a beautiful gift from God from the same input. So I would congratulate all of you for giving this insight into your joining. So let me take you further. How was the routine? Please introduce us to your routine of the school. That would be another thing to know how the hostel and the school was regulated. Yes, Pratish, you can start. No problem.
Just before you go on to that, there's one aspect I want to bring out. So Swami did not come for the inauguration on the 9th of February 1978. He had sent Dr. Bhagwantam. And many parents, after they left us in Ooty, went to Vrindavan where Swami was. And Swami asked Dr. Bhagwantam, how are my children in Ooty? And Dr. Bhagwantam said, Swami, kids were fine, but parents were crying. Parents had a tough time. So the other side of it as well. Then Swami, he sent word that next day he wanted all those parents whose kids were studying in Ooty to sit separately, and he would come and give Pad Namaskar. So he actually came the next morning and gave Pad Namaskar on the gents side to the fathers and on the ladies' side to our mothers. And my
I would say
parents said they got
it's a great
a lot of.
sacrifice on the parent side also. It shows their sense of devotion and faith in Bhagwan to be separate from the child. So obviously Bhagwan would pacify them to keep you all happy here. So
Yeah,
it's,
Yeah.
I
and
think
also
he has to work both sides. Yes, Prabhakar?
yeah, and also what Satish was talking about Vishada Yoga, and and a life-altering experience of mine was when I lost my father when I was in grade 3. So I was hit by
Oh,
something like that at much later time. And again, resonating with what Brother Satish was saying, that it is Swami who holds us, it's not we clinging on to him. That actually got proven because, going through that traumatizing experience, it could have made me a person worse off, and I would have never achieved and come this far if he wasn't guiding me every step of my life. So we all resonate with what Brother Satish was saying, but at different stages of our life. And yeah,
beautiful. Thanks, Prabhakar, for sharing this. It's a very emotional thing for you all to share. But the fact is, you're right. At that age, when the child is already going through his safety and security issues in his head, in a small little baby head, and that time to have that kind of an experience of losing a father, a parent, certainly can mostly dent the personality.
yeah,
And here you are, a wonderful young man
from an
with the
initial
full faith.
reaction, that why is this happening to me, and feeling of remorse and sadness, and you might call it being depressed. I've moved on to that point that I know that I have a heavenly Father, and a heavenly Father is a million times more powerful, more loving, more giving, and more forgiving than your worldly father. And for everything that I have to ask, whether it's silly, simple, complex stuff, I just go back to Swami, and uh, everything that I ask, there's nothing that has been turned away, because he's taken that responsibility completely.
I would like to just to highlight this for the viewers. When you say I can ask any response, please clarify. Is it physically you're talking about, or
Yeah, most of the times it's not physical, because I do not crave for much of recognition or name and money. I've never been that kind of person. Gratefully, I think it's because of Swami's teachings and having stayed in his presence. But even if it has to be a very deep rooted thought, a passing imagination, an idea, even if it's very faint, even if it's not very strong, and I'm not putting that kind of effort to get it, but because he resides in your heart, he knows what is good for you, so he always.
and he never disappoints and never
Yeah, no, he
disappoints.
actually gave me 100 times more than what I thought I should, probably.
Excellent. Very good. Thank you. So let me hear the routine of your hostel and school. How did your day start in those cold, beautiful mountains of Ooty?
So I recollect that the day would begin at 6 a.m. We used to wake up at 6 a.m. and
Oh,
my
you're
earliest
relaxed, man. Okay.
and my earliest memory is that mother used to wake us up. She would start one line with the first boy and wake up that boy and move down to the entire line. And mother would join us for Suprabhatam, and we used to do Suprabhatam sitting on our beds. So we had bunk beds in Ooty. We had one boy sleeping on the top, another boy sleeping below, and mother would you know start the Omkaram and then the Suprabhatam. We would all sit on our beds, cover ourselves with the blankets, and
But were you
chant.
not in the dorms?
We were.
We were in the dormitory, so we used to sit on our beds and have the
Correct. But when
Suprabhatam.
you say mother used to do prayers, how about the other dorms? Was it a mic
So,
system or what is it like?
no, there was no mic. So
So that
I,
means
I guess
every teacher would do it separately in the different dorms.
I guess different teachers took different roles to wake up kids,
Different.
and maybe
Okay.
some
No,
slightly
there were
higher.
only two dorms,
Yeah, boys and girls in the first batch.
two boys
Very
and
few
girls. That's
students.
about it. Yeah.
Just
Okay,
42
okay,
children.
okay.
So all boys in one dormitory, all girls in one dormitory,
One dormitory.
and
Okay. So two dorms. So
two
you could
dorms.
manage it. Okay.
Yeah. And we were not taking bath every day in the morning. Ooty was very, very cold. So we had
I don't know if
classes
the
were
audience should
assigned
listen to that.
Yeah, we took bath every alternate day.
No, it depends
So we
on, it depended on the water scarcity. It was alternate day. Otherwise, if it was one this row, and this row on 3 days, or it was each
Right.
class like that. So
Yeah.
depending on the
But my earliest memory is that we were all very interested and excited to be ready by 8 a.m. And for that, we had to go to the prayer hall. Warden Auntie used to take a meditation session from 8 to 8:15 every morning. Warden Auntie used to teach us meditation. And the way she would describe it
For the
was we would all,
records, I would like people to know who was your warden.
Mrs. Prem Bahal,
Prem Bahal
you know,
auntie. Okay.
yeah, she was our warden.
I hope I had a picture of her. I'm sorry, I should have brought it up. Anyway, please carry on.
She will always remain our warden in our hearts. And Warden Auntie, I still very distinctly remember, she would ask us to look at Swami's photograph in the prayer hall and deeply look at his image for a minute. Then she would ask us to close our eyes and she would guide us. She would describe Swami's face, the crown of hairs, and slowly go down Swami's form. And she would guide us to draw this picture in our minds. And this whole exercise took about 13, 14 minutes. And then the last minute, she would ask us to hold on to that image. And 15 minutes was the meditation session, after which we had breakfast. Then we had, our morning assembly. And another interesting thing was after the meditation session, anybody who was sick, all sick boys would line up outside mother's room. So Swami, and I will leave for Brother Prabhakar to explain that in better detail because his memory of that is better than mine. But Swami had created a silver idol of Shirdi Baba and given to mother. And he had told her that any student...
Some sound is there. Partish, some sound is there disturbing. Whose sound is this? Can you hear the sound?
Yeah, we can hear the sound.
Yeah, it's subsided now.
It's subsided now. So
Okay.
Swami had created and materialized Shirdi Baba's silver idol and given to mother and said, when anybody falls sick, mother should perform Abhishekam to the idol every day. And those who fall sick, mother should give that jal to the sick boys. So that's another enduring memory I have.
So Prabhakar, can you add on to that? What is that? Yeah.
Sure. This was during a picnic, and Swami used to normally lead the picnic in his car, maybe sometimes two cars actually, with some student from Vrindavan campus also accompanying him. And then we would be towing back behind Swami's cars in a bus with all the preparation that went into creating Russian rice and sambar rice and everything was there. So all the excitement used to be there. And when Swami found a nice clear patch in the forest, he made us sit in a huge circle. And then, of course, our teachers lovingly served us the food and Swami would talk. And during one of those visits, Swami called mother and asked, whom do you want? Is it Shirdi Baba or Sai Baba? So I distinctly remember this because deep in my heart, I wanted mother to say Sai Baba because he was our Santa. He was our everything for us. He was the Heavenly Father. He gave us all those gifts. He made us happy. He took us to picnic. So it has to be Sai Baba. When mother said Shirdi Baba, and then my heart literally sang. But of course, we just can't express that. But Bhagwan, as usual, with his gracious smile, he created a statue of Shirdi Baba. And then he advised mother, do Abhishek every day. And then you can give that water, the gel, to kids who are
All the
sick.
children.
Yeah, and later on, luckily for us, and that's why maybe my memory is very distinct on this, he called Dr. Auntie and he said the same question, do you want Shirdi Baba or Sai Baba? And he actually put Shirdi Baba, every time he asked that question, he put Shirdi Baba in the front. So that again demonstrates how Swami was trying to say, all his forms are one. And then luckily, I was delighted that Dr. Auntie said Sai Baba. And then Swami did the same thing. He created a silver statue of himself, and he gave the same instructions because she was Dr. Auntie. Everybody would go to her dispensary. So he said, same thing, do abhishek, you give this water, kids will be good. So that is a beautiful experience which Brother Patish brought. Yeah.
Beautiful. So he not only starts a system, he also provides the, how to take care of everybody from that angle. So I know, see, the whole infrastructure, obviously, Bhagwan was physically not there. So he had to put his dummies, his people there, whom he has trained and prepared for the task. So I don't mind hearing few of your memories with your teachers or anybody, which has remained in your psyche as as a very beautiful memory of your childhood, that teachers have helped you to build your personality. If you want to share something, anyone, Gaurav,
Okay.
I'm open, keeping it open.
So
Satish.
I'll speak about mother. So mother, it's very beautiful. All students addressed her as mother. All teachers addressed her as mother. Only warden auntie addressed her as ma'am. Everybody else addressed her as mother, and all parents addressed her as mother. So the Swami had given instructions that we should address our teachers as sisters. So we addressed our class teachers as sisters, and mother was mother for everybody. My enduring memory of mother is that mother was an aristocrat. Many years later, Swami had told on the veranda when he introduced Habu sir that he had chosen the best principal in the world to become the principal of the higher secondary school. Swami had chosen the world's best principal. He was in the habit of choosing the best principal because he'd chosen the best principal first as mother. And mother was an aristocrat. She, in 1978, had traveled around the world. Her children were settled in Canada at that time. And mother had fought the freedom struggle. She had, been with Mahatma Gandhi in one of his ashrams. She had also been with Vinoba Bhave, before she came to Swami. So it was very interesting. Actually in class 5, there used to be a time when mother used to play a tape where Gandhiji's voice was recorded and she would share her stories with Gandhiji. So mother was an aristocrat, but the most enduring memory of mother, the one incident I have been told again and again and again over the years, is this. So the school started on the 9th of February, and we were in the school until mid-May. And then those days in Ooty, we had 2 months of holidays for summer and 2 months of vacation for the winter. And in the month of May, when parents came to collect us from Ooty, as mother was handing over each child to their parent, mother made a statement. And mother said, "Today, I feel like how you felt when you left your child here in February."
So
And that
sweet.
that is a statement my parents have never felt shy of repeating. And that kind of tells you the bond that
The
had been
involvement.
created between
Excellent.
the student and mother.
Excellent. Anyone else would like to share?
Yeah, I think each one of us had a favorite sister, favorite auntie, or favorite, person in the school. And my favorite, whom I looked up for inspiration, somebody who's a towering personality who actually exuded love as well as, trying to discipline us because we were so small. But she did it with a tender softness. That was Warden Auntie. I can't, like, every time I think of Ooty, of course, mother would be there, and then of course Warden Auntie. She had this wonderful attitude of being loving and at the same time trying to discipline us. And she took immaculate care of us as a Warden Auntie, and the way she led the meditation sessions as well. So she's always been our favorite, all of our favorite, and that's why I remember her very fondly.
I think she pampered boys more.
Perhaps, yes, yeah.
I will second
Excellent.
that. Warden Auntie was my favorite too. He instilled tremendous confidence in us when we felt homesick, even otherwise, through food, through
Everything.
classes. If anybody was low, she was a pillar of strength.
Right.
She was.
And
And
even
the other,
she also
right,
taught us cleanliness, and she taught us of how to keep our belongings, how to keep our clothes. So everything that a parent would teach you at home, trying to groom you into a responsible, well-groomed kid, she did that in a very subtle way. And because Warden Auntie would stay, she could be approached anytime. And it was not about
right.
studies. So it was about real education that was useful way later in your life. So Warden Auntie had that extreme intimate kind of influence on each one of us.
So when we are talking about the routine of your school, how was the food?
Yeah, I think I'll start off. Our favorite was ragi porridge and wheat porridge. We always looked for
In the morning.
yeah, and it was very nourishing, and it was hot. And because Ooty is a cold place, we always liked it. And when it comes to food, our teachers actually made sure everybody was eating well because we were away from parents, and they made sure we didn't waste food. So we were taught at a very young age that food has to be treated as God. And the prayer before every food session, the Brahmarpanam that we did, again, that reinforced our belief that this is Swami's prasad, and that food has to be taken with gratitude. Every morsel. I remember still listening from teachers in Ooty. Why do we bend before we have every morsel? Is we are actually showing our gratitude for every morsel that we have. It's not just a prayer at the beginning, but
I
every
like
morsel.
that. I like that.
So
Why
I
do we
remember
bend
that
before?
about food, and they made sure everybody was served second time, third time, maybe if they wanted more. So I recall that you just had to put your hand up, and they would come to serve you. I don't know if Pratish remembers that. You have to put your
Yes,
hand
yes, hand up.
and yeah.
Correct. I mean, we had very, very, top high class, high quality food. And not only that, we used to sit on tables and chairs and have food.
Mm.
And the
And we
gradation
would
of the
hand out,
tables, and the
yeah,
gradation of the tables. The grade one tables were the smallest and the cutest
all
one.
the kids.
And
Correct.
as if you
Correct.
felt promoted when you came to grade 2 or 3, and then fifth grade was like a proper table. So
Yeah.
everybody
Ooty
went
was
out.
more pampered, I would say,
Yeah.
because in Parthi we started sitting on the floor, right?
No,
Yeah,
yeah.
yeah. Ooty was cold place. That's why I think Swami had designed it that way.
Gave you
That,
that raised platform.
but what I
Satish, you
remember
are
about
smiling. Do you have any memories?
No, we could not miss any lunch, breakfast, or dinner. You could not miss any play session. You could not miss any prayer session. There was no way you could have done that. Teachers are always overseeing you. That was one thing which really, I still remember it.
And
The way
You
they,
I
got a
particularly
choice that you have
remember
to eat.
The Sunday uh, breakfast used to be dosas with excellent coconut chutney.
right.
And I think because we used to be given two dosas and it was always running short, we could double it and still, be hungry. It was so tasty.
But Gaurav, because Gaurav, Partish, maybe you are not from South, so obviously you didn't have dosas every day at your home. So did you find a difficulty in adjusting there, or when you came back home you had a problem?
So the food was not entirely South Indian. There were dals, there were North Indian curries. Um, it was okay. I mean, we didn't have a food problem really. Uh, and there was a good mix of food. It was well prepared. It used to be served hot in great surroundings because it was cold outside. So, um, food was always, most of the times, what something we looked forward to.
Right.
So you had morning 8 o'clock breakfast, then you had around 12ish lunch. What was
no,
the lunch
Yes.
time?
no. In between, after two classes, we had a break at 11 o'clock. And
Oh,
we used
what
to
was
Mm.
have
that?
milk. We used to have milk and we used to have biscuits.
Biscuits.
And
Correct.
and
Okay.
the importance of that 11 o'clock break was that, and this is my memory of it, when parents came in between to see kids, mother was very generous in allowing the kids to meet with their parents, but she had one condition: you could not bring sweets for your child only. If you wanted to give something, you had to bring it for everybody in the school. And that used to be served in the 11 o'clock break. Whether you get chocolates or biscuits, the parents were used to bringing them. But mother's request was always, don't bring only for your child, bring it for everybody. And that's how I think this feeling of brotherhood between us, was also inculcated, because parents did not want us to feel that they were bringing only for us. They were bringing it for all of our brothers and
Everybody.
sisters.
It was like a one big joint family.
Family.
Yes.
A parent cannot love a child more than the other. It just doesn't happen. So it
Doesn't
was
work.
just that, like, one big joint family.
So great. So you all had 8 o'clock breakfast, 11 o'clock milk break, and then lunch was at what time?
I would presume around 12:31, somewhere there.
Okay, 12:31 was lunch, and then you had anything before you had dinner? I'm sure you
We
must
had-
have
Yes,
tea
yes.
or something.
Yes. 3:30 again, a milk break.
Milk
That's when classes
Again,
used to
milk
finish.
break.
Yeah.
God
Again,
bless
milk.
you guys.
And
You
I
had good milk,
recall,
man.
I recall also them giving us buns.
Buns,
So,
yes.
yeah,
Correct.
that's also
Correct.
one of our favorite, because we could soak it in the milk and have the old-fashioned way, but it really was nourishing, because good milk, hot milk with bun, very filling
Correct.
as well. Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay, so
Sometimes flowers
3:30.
and
So 3:30 you had that milk break again, and
Then
then
games.
games.
then sports. You went
Then
to
sports.
sports. Okay,
Yeah.
and then you had dinner, or you had bhajans before that.
I-
We did have
Bhajans was
bhajan
not daily.
Yeah.
daily. It was, I think, on
I recall
Thursdays.
it was a Thursday,
It
Sunday.
was on Thursdays. It wasn't
on
daily.
Okay, so you had
Wasn't-
prayers in the Thursdays. Okay, then you had dinner. Dinner was at what
Yeah,
time?
Correct.
Before
Around
7. I think.
seven-ish.
Right.
Seven-ish.
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 Okay, after dinner, what was the plan? Study
No,
hours?
no,
No,
sleep
no,
sleep
No,
directly.
no. No
Sleep.
study hours.
Yeah, no study
Yeah.
hours. We never
No
took
study.
books to the dormitory, and
Dormitory.
yeah.
So I think you were in a holiday resort, man. You're not in the
Exactly.
school.
Yeah, exactly.
Exactly. We were very pampered, and we were really taken care of. And that was
Correct.
actually what made us feel that we are not in a routine school which was trying to grind us with bookish knowledge, but where we enjoyed every part of life, including sport, including being with others, spiritual sadhana or bhajan. So it was a beautiful mix that got us to become well-rounded personalities in that.
So you guys slept off by 8:30?
Yeah, there was
Yes.
one routine. I don't know if everyone recalls that we had to stand in a little line, so that because our skin used to get chafed because of the cold weather, and they put the Vaseline for each one of us. So that was an everyday affair before we went to bed.
I remember
And
that.
I remember that. And we could go and have Feridol. If you got Feridol from home, you could go to Dr. Auntie and have your Feridol.
Yeah, and we had a choice of having a Feridol or Charcoferol, if you remember that
Yes,
name.
yes. And some calcium tablets, and also, those.
Sandoz and Ostocalcium and Sandoz calcium.
Yeah. So that was permitted. You could get that from home, but you had to give it to Dr. Auntie, and it was kept in a separate room. And every evening, every night before going to bed, you could go to that room and have this.
Wow. So
Mhm.
I think it doesn't sound like a hostel of school. It looks like a resort
And
with
one more
all the
point.
people looking after you.
One more point. The routine was also designed in such a way that you had to have different dresses for different occasions.
Right.
So school uniform was one, playground was another, night dress was another, and there were special occasions when you could wear your home clothes.
Correct.
So it was really top class. It was really, Swami had chosen the best and designed the best
I
system
believe
for
you
us.
all had also something very special. Like, there are special events like writing letters to your parents every week.
Yeah. Yes. So that was an instruction Swami had given to mother and all the teachers. Every Saturday, we used to sit and write letters. And the way it went was when we were in class 1 and 2, I still remember, if I close my eyes, I can see Prema sister and Saroja sister writing the letter on the blackboard. They would write the letter on the blackboard and we would copy it down. And then, of course, my dear mother and father, Sai Ram, and then the letter would flow, what we did that week, how we are. And at the very end, they used to leave a little bit of space for us to write what we wanted. Either we could write the names of our friends, we could draw, we could do what we wanted. And then all these letters.
So I believe this was like a first grade time, like they would write on the board and you copy it. How about the senior boys, like Satish, Gaurav, Prabhakar, others? How did it happen?
No, after
Did
first,
you
second
also copy the same thing?
No, after second standard, we were taught to write a lot more by ourselves. So we were coached into it, and that was in third standard. So till second standard, even if there was space to write something on your own, we used to invariably draw something, some tree, some mountain, some river flowing, and then
Yeah, and we also actually compared against each other. My drawing was better than yours, and yours is better, and take some ideas from the next boy. So we tried to impress our parents by being innovative every time around. Yeah, because we wouldn't want to draw the same thing. So it was a beautiful experience. And I still remember, because Partish, you say that Prema's sister used to write on board. There used to be one sentence which is like etched in my memory. I'm sleeping, eating, studying, playing well. That is the uniform sentence in every letter. Like I did.
Just imagine,
yeah,
the confidence it gave to our parents when they read that letter every week. And Swami's instructions was, because we were away from parents, he wanted communication with parents on a weekly basis. So every Saturday we wrote the letter. Then teachers would read the letter. They would make sure we
I'm
didn't
sure
write
some
anything.
of your parents might be like to save those letters. It will be
Yeah,
very
saved it.
interesting.
At least for
It
10
will
years.
be a nice scrapbook.
Yes. For many years, my parents had saved it, and that's how I remember, because I read these letters. Even when I was doing my college, I used to see these letters, and every Monday, the letters used to be posted.
So beautiful. Any other event like that? Any other activity which was so keen, which was insisted upon?
I would want to find out if my other brothers in this meeting remember that we had the haircut in that little glass room. We had the best view when our hair was being cut, and because we were in hostel, they made sure we had very short hair, and that it's much more manageable with alternate day showers and stuff like that. So that was another experience that I kind of remember very well. Who would have a hill view, a complete glass kind of view, and have their hair cut during those days? So in that sense, we were pampered beyond our own imagination.
And Warden Auntie used to be in charge of that session.
Yes.
And she had to make sure every kid had the proper haircut.
I remember in the senior talk, I had one brother who had joined. He said his only criteria for admission was that he had to have 3 times haircut. Because each time he went, they said, not approved, go back again, have haircut. So he went 3 times to do haircut and he got admitted. So I know haircut was one of the very important activity.
Absolutely.
Okay.
And because you also mentioned our routine, our showers were given by very caring ayahs. So it was not that we had to shower for ourselves, and we were actually showered by ayahs who really gave us a very hot water bath, because they wanted to make sure our pores are open and our health was good and our skin was kept in pristine condition. So I think that was one experience which we might have not enjoyed as much because the water was really hot, but we never realized that was for our own good. So that was part of the routine as well. Yeah.
Let me share these pictures which you have given. So, and tell us quickly about these locations. So this, I believe, is the entrance of the campus.
Right.
That's correct. Entrance to the main entrance to the school.
Yeah, I would suggest you can please keep sharing.
Yeah, and the main entrance which you showed, brother, that approach road is extremely steep. So every auto, taxi, or your own car that you drove in had to be in very good condition to get there. It was really steep. Yeah.
Okay. So this was your school building.
Correct.
Which I believe is no more, right?
Yeah, this is no more.
You still have a piece of that building, especially the front facade, which is there, which says, Sri Sathya Sai Vidya Vihar Nandanavanam. That's still there. But the building has, collapsed or whatever has happened to it. Yeah.
Yeah, they have sold it out. Okay.
And this is where Swami used to give darshan. And
so this is a hostel. This is a school and a hostel building. What is it?
Yeah, this was built later.
Okay.
More hostel.
And this is a welcome of Bhagwan. You all are.
Yes. Swami was watching
here
this.
on the ground.
this was later, actually, when I had gone with Swami to Kodai and then Ooty. It was just old memories where Swami would stand outside that hostel building at a height, and this was the playground where children would perform. So they had done this performance, Pranam Sai.
Pranam Sai. Beautiful.
Correct.
And I believe this is your whole school.
Right.
Yes.
First batch.
So that is your mother,
Yeah.
Yes.
and this is your
Doctor
doctor auntie,
Yes.
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 and this is our warden auntie,
Correct.
Auntie.
Yes.
and these are your teachers,
Correct.
and this is your whole gang.
Right.
Yes.
I'm sure people who are watching and they can recall these beautiful moments.
Yes.
If I give you a quiz to all of you to name all of these people, can you?
We can name plenty of them actually. So
Yes.
I can
If I
figure
start
out
from
few of
here,
them.
on the extreme left is Lata sister, Prema sister, Nirmala sister, and Dr. Thangama, mother, warden auntie, Muni ma'am, and Saroja sister.
perfect. Yeah.
Wonderful. I can see Arunesh Puneet here. I can see Sani here. Yeah. I can
We
only
would be
recognize
somewhere.
few faces. Yeah.
Correct.
But I don't mind sharing this picture with everybody and asking them to do a quiz to name everybody around. This is a lovely picture. Is it a ground? I think
This
I
is the
see a
first
swing there.
playground where we had the merry-go-round and when we had the julas. So this is the smallest one, and this is where also we took the picture. If I remember correctly, that Swami asked each kid to take a picture with him. This is the playground.
Okay.
The picture.
So we used to call it the second playground. So the first playground was what you saw just in front of the
The
school
fountain.
building,
Right.
in front of the fountain. And this was the second playground. And then the third one was what Gaurav described,
And
Pranam
this
Sai.
was your prayer room?
It was the garden kind of thing with the well.
Yeah,
This is
the
our
playground.
prayer room.
This is our prayer room.
So this is when Swami gave us the chance to perform in Purnachandra before his birthday, 21st November 1978. Ooty School performed for Swami's birthday function.
Excellent.
The Swami is giving, I still remember this pencil box. It is a pencil box actually. Swami is giving each one who performed that day.
Nice. You're talking about Swami taking you all on a picnic. I would like to hear that something. So what do you mean by taking you out for picnic? Because we have seen our elders, Swami taking out. So what was your picnic like?
One picnic that we can recall easily is the one that he took us to Wellington, where we had a senior army personnel. He was a colonel, so he hosted all of us and at the army base itself in Wellington, which is very close to Ooty. So we went with Swami. We had bhajan sessions there, and actually they toured us throughout the complex, including showing us, anti-aircraft gun, which were like massive. So that was very educative as well as entertaining, exciting because it was with Bhagwan. And the kind of love even the colonel and his personnel showed on us, that was purely, we all understood it's because of their devotion and love for Swami. So all that we were getting, the attention, the love and the grace, we know it all emanated from only Bhagwan, and he was the reason for everything. Yeah.
Because I believe these pictures are from your picnic style, right? Picnic time.
Right. Absolutely.
So it's interesting to see all of you are having, sitting like that and eating.
Pratish, maybe because you said you actually agreed that it was Kunur, that a previous picture, if you recall any memories from there.
It's quite similar to what you said. I remember that we were all very excited because, one thing was Swami had permitted Mother to take us out for picnics, even when he was not there. So,
Right.
we had been to the botanical garden and we'd been to a few picnics even when Swami was not there. But when Swami would physically come, those were the picnics we, looked forward to as well, because of just what you
Yeah.
said. The love of devotees to Swami would, translate into them giving us a lot of, you know, showering a lot of love on us.
Right.
So
And
this is your milk time?
this is 11 o'clock milk time.
Milk time, yeah. And we can see the table and chairs,
Right.
and this is your classroom.
Correct.
Yes.
So you guys learned how to play tabla, or was it naturally just keep hitting?
I remember Roy Auntie teaching us bhajans and instilling that sense of music and bhajans in us. I don't know if other brothers remember that kind of training or creation of interest.
Lovely.
I do. It was an all-round development, all-round exposure we had. There was drama, there was dance, there was sport, there were debates. There was a lot going on. I mean, we were on the roll.
Yeah,
It
I
was
saw.
interesting.
Let me now take your conversation to a different angle now. So since all of you gave us a good picture of the whole Ooty complex, Ooty routine and everything, and how
Yeah.
Bhagwan had already created a structure, a discipline to live, even though you say it was not so strict, it was like a resort for you guys. But when Swami came, I'm sure things would have gone a little bit more crazy. So what did change? Did anything change when he came in, or he kind of adjusted to the same system?
No, when Swami was there, a lot more devotees came for darshan and all that. And Swami brought his students who also stayed there. There were obviously VIPs also who had come there and visited. So we had sessions with Swami, when if it was breakfast or lunch, Swami used to come there. Prayer time, Swami used to give us attention. And classes once in a while used to come in. But much of the time we were in the hostel side, and Swami used to spend time with other people. That was way. The one thing that I clearly remember is when I saw Swami there for the first time, at least maybe second time, I remember that, okay, the person to whom we pray is very important. I was quite happy about it. And everybody is very, listens very carefully, is very scared, and Swami is pampering students, and we were, Swami is looking at us playing in the ground and making jokes and all of this. So this was very, very nice. So this is what I
But
remember.
as they say, "Tumai tere sang aayi bahar." With Swami coming to Ooty came festivities, came celebrities, came devotees, came noise, came darshans, and studies took a back seat. Preparations were on for his coming and how we would perform, and came gymnastics. The school got spruced up, the food got spruced up, more items were added to the food. Everything was became better, finer, and more fun. And we were always thanking, apart from farming interaction, seeing him creating, seeing him close quarters, because he was staying almost above our dormitory.
Correct. Yeah.
So many times, this was an old palace, a summer palace of the British. I think it was Cornwallis Palace, and it was made of wood. So in the morning, when Swami would get up and probably move, we could hear it down. We're walking on those wooden
Wooden
stairs,
floor. Yes.
wooden floors. We could hear it. That was tremendous fun in the anticipation. We could hear Swami coming down. we could smell, the aroma of Swami coming down. And, when he comes out, the whole room fills up, and you could only see Swami. So, those memories are very vivid.
Yeah, and because Gaurav actually mentions that where Swami used to live during his visits was pretty much above our dorms. I remember one visit of Swami. He actually was so gracious enough to show us his living spaces and stuff. I'm not sure if others recall that. I vividly recall this because there was this staircase, and then there is a parallel wooden, frame, and then again
Correct.
a flight of stairs. That little,
Sure.
parallel flat area, it wasn't barricaded too much, and it felt intimidating for these little kids, which we were. So Swami was standing on the other side, giving a helping hand and ensuring that each kid actually passed that passage, safely. So
Correct.
he was taking so much care, even while the excitement of seeing his living space was there. He made sure that we were very safe, and he did it personally. He was not giving that task to somebody. So here was another instance where he needed to make sure that he did it for us, and he had to take care and responsibility for every kid. Yeah.
So he carried you all upstairs and even he guided through
He
that. Huh?
guided the walk. He held us from that side, and okay, yeah, you go, you go, you go. That's how it
So
worked.
do you recall his room?
Yeah,
We do recall the chula. That was the one which remains, strongly in my memory. I can't recall his dining space and much, but the chula felt wow, and then we were happy to see that. And oh, this is where Swami sleeps, or he takes rest, or he sits and swings and reads those letters. So we could imagine how it felt when Swami was there on that. Yeah.
So Putta and I were very fortunate that in our second standard, our classroom was actually the room opposite Swami's room. So that used to be the room where those boys whom Swami had brought from Vrindavan campus used to live with Swami when Swami brought them to Ooty. And for one full year, that was our classroom. So we walked those stairs, many, many times. We all used to look forward to try and peep when the curtain was slightly, in a manner that you could peep through. We used to take turns and try and peep through and see Swami's room. And that was a great, experience for us.
What you just said, I want to, when the boys used to accompany Bhagwan in those days,
Yes.
because he would
Yes.
bring college boys with him, where would
Yes.
they stay? Where would they
That was
stay?
that was the room they used to stay, opposite Swami's room.
On
Okay, and then,
up and down.
oh,
And
and you
so
were downstairs.
we were downstairs.
And
for
because
one year, that was our classroom.
And because Partheesh mentions that, Swami used to bring students from Vrindavan campus, my brother, his name is Praveen Kumar, and he was in Vrindavan campus long time ago. He came one of those visits. I was pretty much happy, surprised, excited, and of course I was scared that he's going to look what am I doing here, and he might go back and tell my parents, see, this guy is up to something. And so I was having a mixed feeling. But when I look back, that was a great privilege that he had, that he could come with Swami as early as during those days. Yeah.
One incident I remember,
Yes.
I was in third standard, and Muni ma'am was teaching us. And mind you, because the school was very small, Swami had this habit of walking into a classroom unannounced. He would just come out, and he would just walk into a classroom and stand behind, and everybody would turn back and would want to see Swami, and he would say, "No, look forward, continue with your teaching. I'm just visiting." And in one of the incidents, he walked into our classroom. Muni ma'am was teaching. She froze, and so did we. And then he sat down in one of the chairs behind, and sure enough, you can smell Swami is right there. And he said, continue teaching. And she was fumbling, teaching, writing on the board. And so Swami realized that, that this is not really teaching going on. But, this was his way of connecting with us, blessing us. So he sat there for 4 or 5 minutes. and a little bit of teaching went on, and then he said, "Please continue," and he walked out.
I
Um,
can, I can actually, actually tell you that this experience tells me that Swami was, a strict quality control person. He wanted to make sure that everybody was on their toes, giving their best. You don't have to be extraordinary, but you have to be honest and dedicated. And that is what Swami was trying to do, because I have peer visits in my university. And but those peer visits are way much easier than what Swami was paying a visit to Muni Auntie's. He's
Yeah.
the
So
master of
I,
masters. Yeah.
I have another story to add to this, and all our teachers, there's no doubt they were exceptionally great, but they're even blessed because Swami has approved of them and their
Right.
quality of teaching and their style of teaching.
Right.
So once Saroja sister, she was teaching in the class, and we had been trained in Ooty because it was a cold place that you could leave the classroom with the teacher's permission. You just had to tell the teacher that I want to go out of the classroom, whether it was to drink water, relieve yourself. You could go out of the classroom, and teachers never objected to that. They would allow you to go out. But when you came in, you couldn't just walk in. You would stand at the entrance and say, "May I come in, please?" And then the teacher would turn around. She would say yes, and only then you came into the classroom and took your seat. So Swami had obviously observed all of this. Now, the beauty with Swami's visit used to also be that we had those two classrooms next to the prayer hall.
Right.
Those classrooms had to be free a bit early so that Vrindavan boys could have their lunch over there. And one of those times, bit after interviews got over and before the Vrindavan lunch, we used to have our classes. And Swami decided, to test it out for himself. So he came to the edge of the classroom, entrance of the classroom, and in the voice of a child, he said, "May I come in, miss?" And Saroja ma'am was teaching. "May I come in, please? May I come in, please?" he said. And Saroja ma'am was teaching on the board, and she was very engrossed in what she was teaching, opposite to what happened with Muni Auntie. And she didn't even look back to see who the student was. And she said, "Yes, come in." And Swami over there had, put his finger on his lip and asked all of us to stay quiet and, just act normal. So he told us all to be quiet and be normal. And Swami walks into the classroom, and Saroja's sister is continuing to teach. And after a minute or two, she probably realizes the class has gone completely silent. Something is amiss over here. And then she turns around and she sees that the student whom she let in was actually Bhagwan himself. Swami had walked into the classroom and he was there, seeing for himself what she was teaching us. That was a great story that I remember. And in that same classroom, there used to be a big sharpener latched on to the classroom. And on another occasion, Swami actually took a pencil and sharpened the pencil to show us how we should use that particular sharpener.
So he would come and sit in the class and do all of this?
Many times.
Yes, many times.
So sweet. I would
Unannounced.
say
He did that in the assembly prayer as well, because we were supposed to be standing and then closing our eyes and saying the prayer, but we knew that Swami would sneak out slowly from his gracefully, slowly, and the way Swami does it. So we all knew that we could take a look at him. On one occasion, I still remember I was looking left towards Swami's room where we could look at him. He was already on my right to pull my cheek and say, "I caught you, and you're supposed to be."
Brother Kote is online and he's saying that, reminding you of Ooty Idlis. He said they were very famous. They were soft, small, and very soft. And some
They
used to
were.
ask you guys how many you had. Any
Yeah,
recall, any
correct.
memories of that?
No.
I
Do you
think
recall your
I
idlis?
think Brother Kote came with actually my brother. That probably is that same batch of students.
Yeah, and of course he was in that same time he was in Vrindavan. So obviously they would have come from elder side. So
Right.
maybe they have different memories of the same thing which you are experiencing. So it's
The
wonderful.
There was a very good relationship between Vrindavan and Uti, because when we went from Uti to Puttaparthi, we always did a night halt in Vrindavan. We
Correct.
used to stay in the Kalyan Mandap, and Vrindavan boys would then serve us. food and take care of us for that night. And the next day morning, we would proceed to Prashantinilam.
So, any other memories of your classroom interactions with Swami? Because these are wonderful to hear. Because not many of us have this pleasure of having Swami walk into the classrooms.
I have a small memory of uh, the prayer session before food. We used to sing the Brahmar Pranam prayer,
Yeah.
and it was very strictly told that we were supposed to close our eyes. And Swami was sitting on the chair or standing, and naughty as we were, I opened my eyes and I looked around where Swami was, and then I saw Swami there. So he looked at me sternly and he said, "Close your eyes," like he signaled to me. And I closed, and then I opened again just to see whether his eye was still on me or it had gone to somebody else. But it was still on me. And then I closed it, and then I didn't dare to open it again. So small incidents like these where, he was fully there, playing hide and seek with us,
Yeah.
coming to us.
Gaurav, nice to see the mischievous side of yours, huh?
Because you also mentioned dining, because you also mentioned dining session. Swami several times used to have food with us in the dining hall. So that was an experience that we'll never forget. Later on, we realized when we came to Parthi that we were blessed to, share the same space, see Swami having his lunch, and on several occasions when he was in the Ooty school. Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a few memories of that. Swami, whenever he came to Ooty, he always used to say at least one occasion. He would say, "Pehle bhajan, fir bhojan." So we used to have bhajan with Swami, and those days that was really the pinnacle of the trip for us. That was the icing on the cake, because those days Vrindavan boys are pushed aside, and the whole space was occupied by Ooty school students. And even Vrindavan boys would not have food with Swami, or even if they had, they would be sitting at the back. The front area was completely for all of us. And as you know, Swami would finish his food very quickly, and then he would walk around. Sometimes he did it multiple times, but on every occasion, on every trip, he at least kept one day where he would say, "Pehle bhajan, iske baad bhojan." And one incident I remember from that time was one day after the bhajans got over, he said, "Boys, do you want to, do anything for me? Sing a song or anything? Does anybody want to do anything?" And as Gaurav said, there was a lot of cultural activities that we have been trained with. So there was one boy from Delhi. His name was Rohit Sood. He was 1 year junior to me. And he put his hand up. And so Swami asked him. He was not very tall, so he was quite sitting in the front as well. Swami asked him, "Boy, what do you want to do?" And he said, "Swami, I'll sing a song." And Swami gave his permission for him to sing a song. So he started singing, and he sang "Bombay Se Aaya Mera Dost." And he sang that song before. It was not a very long song, but he sang it fully. And Swami, didn't.
Just for the listeners from outside, this is a film song in those days. Quite a popular film song it was. Okay, Pratish, go on.
So some of us who knew what the song was, we all looked at each other. People looked at mother. Teachers put their head down. Everybody was scared. Nobody knew what was coming next. And
how did Swami react?
How did Swami react? He calmly sat and heard the song. And when he finished, he just told Rohit, he said, "Boy, not these kind of songs, not these kind of songs. Is that all of you are from different parts of India. When you go home, learn your folk songs, learn the songs of your area. And then when you come back, you can sing them, but not these kind of songs, not these kind of." So that's a great lesson I carry with me up to this
Satish,
day.
I see a smile on your face. Do you recall something from that?
No. I remember this incident very well, but yeah.
So I just wanted to finish by saying that that's a lesson I carry with me till this day, because when my children,
how he handles every boy, and He'll never show any what he's a small kids, and how he responded to everybody was amazing. I wanted to ask you, I heard somewhere, when Swami used to be there and staying with you, as you said, he was kind of in the same house, and that's a privilege. So there's a one big house, and on one side Bhagwan is staying, and other side you people are. So do you recall that it seems he would at night he would come by and inspect all of you? Do you have any memories of that?
He did that
Gaurav, I
several
believe.
times.
Yeah.
And
Yeah, Prabhakar.
one very vivid memory that I have of Swami visiting us in our dorms was because we had a massive curtain which could be
Yes.
opened in
Yes.
the center. He would actually put only his head into the dorm without his orange robe. He doesn't give it away that he's there. And probably you will take 2-3 minutes before you realize Bhagwan has been watching us doing all the funny stuff and jumping off our bunker beds. So one such occasion he came, and because my bed was pretty much in the front row of it, so he came in, and then a friend of mine, one of the other kid asked, Swami, could you teach me magic? So we were all taken aback. What kind of question is that? We again thought Swami is going to, discipline the kid, but Swami said, "Yeah, if you grow up, I'm going to teach you magic." So that was the way he had that kindness. Another occasion, he came in, he created vibhuti and he gave it to like 4 or 5 kids, and then whatever vibhuti was left on his fingers, he was gracious enough to apply it to the rest of them who didn't get the vibhuti, and I was one of them. And Swami had applied vibhuti on my forehead as well. So I recall those experiences of him
Beautiful.
coming to the dawn suddenly. Yeah. Maybe others could say something about the dawn visits if they remember.
Gaurav, you had memories of Swami visiting you when you all were sleeping or something like that?
I just remember because I was on top, on the top part of the bunk's bed. So I remember him walking through, in between both sides of the bed, and many times humming. He would hum a bhajan very lightly, just walk through it. And of course, you could smell that Swami is there. And we would be gossiping. Swami's there, Swami's there. Now he's near my bed. Now he's near 76. Now he's near 45. We were, that dorm for us meant numbers, because it would start from one and, probably, I don't remember, end at 116 or something. So we remember exchanging hisses between us, where he had reached and where he was turning. Memories of those are vivid memories in my
So
mind.
sweet.
Our dormitory was the dancing room of the
Viceroy.
palace, the summer palace. So it had wooden floors, it had old British chandeliers. Um, those are the memories
So
which
high
I have.
ceiling, high ceiling.
High
Yeah.
ceiling,
Yep.
large wooden doors, British feel, dancing room, huge chandeliers, excellent, excellent feel about it.
So when you said resort, Abhimanyu brother, you were absolutely spot on. Even the
I didn't know the whole detail, but now it seems like that only. So
Correct.
because I heard Swami used to walk in at night and then check on children and put blankets over them and something like that. That's why I was curious to know if you have any
Yes.
memories of that.
Yeah. So that was what teachers used to tell us, because obviously we were asleep. But many times in the night, Swami would, come down and he would walk the dormitory and he would check what each child was, doing. And if people had thrown their blanket out, Swami many times, for many boys, covered them with a blanket. And he did this multiple times during those days.
You all have, I'm sure I can tell you, not to praise you, but you all are chosen few who had this, I would say, I don't know how to evaluate or how to even interpret it. It's a great boon to be, with God from that young age. And as you said yourself, I love the statement that he held on to us and he has held on to you even till date. So you are one of the few people who have literally grown with God. You have seen him, you have experienced him, which most of us can only, crave and imagine. How has your perception of Bhagwan grown or evolved over the years? I leave it open to you all. Keep sharing. I have no problem. Satish, you can start. Anybody can join in.
One of the first time, I think it really, it really convinced me that Swami responds to prayers. It was around fourth standard, my fourth standard, and the Ganesh temple was just built. Swami had come for the inauguration, and once I came there, the surroundings and the festivity was very, very nice, and the bhajans had started, and I just closed my eyes. But when I opened my eyes much later, I just realized Swami had actually come there quite some time back itself, and he was breaking those coconuts. 21 coconuts. How he breaks when he crashes two, only one breaks. He hits one other, and only one breaks, and the last two break. That one, and I felt sad that my eyes were closed, and after that, during the session, during the bhajan itself, he came the whole round, and he came and tapped me on my head, and it was such a pleasant feeling at that time. But that was the first time it convinced me, okay, Swami responds to prayers, and it started from there. And it started with a lot of uh, you could say trepidation in school. One occasion when we asked our teachers, uh, what did Swami tell about the temple and things like that, and Roy said the principal told him just today about it. And we had questions as to why did you have to tell Swami? Swami is God. And then you hear things like, yes, he's God, but sometimes you have to tell he doesn't pretend he's God. So our understanding starts from there. From that level, it started. And, as it goes higher and higher, things change and evolved a lot more.
Prabhakar, Gaurav,
Yeah,
anybody?
my experience or the perception that it started off was he was like a father to begin with. Then I went through that phase of where my father passed away, and then there's this sense of withdrawal for a time, maybe 6 months to 1 year, where I withdrew from everything. I wouldn't think too much about anything. Probably that kind of vacuum. But then I luckily again Swami, because as Satish was saying, that he holds on to you. He brought me back from that feeling of withdrawal to having faith and having the belief in good things and in the philosophy of karma. And then when I saw Swami in Prashanti, the giving that goes on in Prashanti, I mean, that is so transforming. Once you see Swami as a heavenly father, the Narayan Seva that goes on, and the countless number of great devotees, highly accomplished people coming and being super humble. So you start beginning to realize it's his teaching that you need to carry and try and transform you from inside. And we're just blessed to have that every day. And if you don't use this privilege, if you take it for granted, I mean, there's no bigger shame than that. So I started seeing Swami's life in a way that his life is truly his message. So what he said, he practiced 100%, and for us it was much easier, because if you say something to others, they might not relate it to what we're trying to say. They might not comprehend it. But when you see somebody day in and day out selflessly serve and practice exactly what he says, for me that is the true measure of who God is. So the faith became stronger. I tried to inculcate that in my daily life as much as I could. Every time he went astray, and Swami told, his speeches, the deepest of philosophies were made very simple. He broke it down into examples. For everything he said, udaharanam. So he gave an example. So when he kept saying that, we began to realize the most complex things in life can be practiced in simple ways, but the simple things are very hard to hold on to. So sadhana practice, that's what I tried to do, and my faith became stronger and very strong. And once you know that Swami is within us and he's in every creature, and that philosophy of Advaita, and that actually carried on to my job. So when I go to class in any place where I teach, I'm just using what Swami has taught us as children. And I've also, whatever I've learned from teachers as well, that we have to believe this is one big, large family. And we all belong to that cosmic form, which is Swami. So if we have to treat ourselves as little waves in that massive ocean and just continue to be loving, because he addresses us as Prema Swarupulara. And if we realize that love transcends religion, transcends ethnicity, it just does not discriminate, it transcends space and time. So obviously, Swami has set us that example. And if we did that, wonderful things will happen, not just because we are great, it's just because we are carrying Bhagwan inside. And so it made me a more humble person. So if anybody were to ask me that you have achieved this much, I just do not take even 1% credit. I know it's 100% because of Bhagwan, and that I have to keep myself worthy as an instrument in his hands. So my perception has become stronger, and it just gets reinforced every minute, every day. So I'm happy because you carry Bhagwan, you feel assured, you feel peaceful, you feel loving, you feel like giving, and you feel like serving. So that's my perception.
Gaurav,
I am a child among children, a man among men, but left alone I am God. When I saw Swami as a child, he was a child. He played with me, he came to the class. When we went into college, he talked to us like a man. When we graduated, he gave us career guidance. We got married, he he taught us how to lead a good, balanced life. And then we had children. Um, he taught us good parenting. And then he tells you how you have to enter old age. So through it all, when I was a child, I felt he was a friendly God. When we were in college, I felt he, understood career very well, and he could guide. That meant a lot to me. So as over these years, on hindsight, when I look back, uh, the journey has made it very clear that left alone, he was God, and all the conduits, parents and teachers and experiences of life was all leading to him. There was eventually the end of the road through it all was him. So that's on hindsight, that was the learning. The playfulness led us to him. The teachers led us to him. The fear, which in turn said, pray to him and it will go. The business problems, pray and it shall go. Seek and you shall find. And then you suddenly realize what you were looking for, what life's experiences was meant, what education was meant for, was there with us all through, holding our hand, guiding us. But he was at the end. That's
I believe
what
he named your son also, right?
he named my son. We're very thankful. He named him Suprabhat because he was
Suprabhat.
born
A
at
very
5 a.m.
unique name. Very unique
It's a
name.
very unique name. And then he said, you know what? I know you didn't go for Suprabhatam regularly, but I'm still naming your son Suprabhat. So we're very thankful to him and always
Lovely.
will be.
Partish,
Yes. So Swami, to me, when I look back, as all the other brothers have said, I think the journey started with him thinking of him just like a friend, like I'm a child among children. So he was he was not somebody distinct and far away. He was there with us. He was there joking with us, playing with us. And I also think in Ooty we got that guidance from our teachers that he was constantly present. He didn't have to be physically present to manifest himself before us. His presence was there all the time. We only had to think and he would respond. So we got that training very early And as I went through the system, I, realized that Bhagwan was part of our family. I considered him more like a mother and a father. I never feel comfortable addressing him as master. I just can't relate to that level of Bhagwan, but I can very much relate to him as a mother, as a father. Uh, and given my background, given my parents were devotees before I was born, every time I came home, the discussions, everything was all about Swami being a part of the family. And any decision you made, you always prayed to him, you offered it to him, and only then you proceeded. So that's the environment in which I have grown up. And to this day, I consider Swami to be very much a part of my family. Uh, I consider him to be my mother, my father. And as Gaurav said, when there's an issue, when there's a problem, I speak to him just as I would speak to my mother or to my father. So the relationship that has endured and I hope will continue until we reach him is that he
Sure,
is our true mother and father.
sure. Even today, I want to tell the listeners and viewers a very interesting part of our upbringing, and this whatever bond you all are sharing with us is that even today, if you go back to your institution, of course Ooty is not there, but since you have primary school and others, higher secondary and college, there is a kind of welcome feeling still, right? And you can relate to that you belong there, we all belong to that place. uh, do you have any do you want to share any quick memories about interaction with your, yes, Prabhakar?
Yeah, one beautiful memory that I have is after 25 years, we were visiting Sri Sathya Sai Primary School in Prashantinilayam. And because Warden Auntie was still there, we were very happy to see her. She's extremely, old, and she still had the same energy. She was taking help of another volunteer, but she was supervising the serving of food. That itself was a great inspiration to see somebody serve selflessly, not
She was
getting
an amazing lady.
devoted and dedicated, and the same passion, supervising things herself. So we waited patiently till she finished supervising everybody's lunch. And then when she was free, she came and sat up. And I thought it's polite to, introduce myself because it's been a long time. So I volunteered to say, Auntie, I'm Prabhakar. And then she gave me a slap, a tight one, and actually it was strong enough. And I'm like, did I actually be disrespectful? Did I say something that I shouldn't be saying? And she said, roll number 4. And then I realized the big mistake that I had committed. If she can recall my roll number, how stupid of me that I had to tell I'm Prabhakar. And I honestly believe that I should have deserved 2 instead of 1, because that was a big mistake. She carried us in her heart. So, and she remembers names, she remembers all those experiences more vividly than we were, because she was the parent and she was such an inspiration. And they made sure that they cooked fresh lunch for us, because it was well past the lunchtime, and they made us eat so much. And because we are much older, our appetites were much lesser. We struggled to finish, and we remember that cardinal principle: not even a single morsel of food should go wasted. So we extended our lunchtime until we gulped in all that love and affection in the form of food and Swami's prasad. So that you are one Swami student, you remain Swami student. Once you're the student of these wonderful human beings, the teachers that we had, you are a lifelong student. So and all of us, at least me, I have carried that feeling that I'm a student all my life. So we learn, we're willing to stay humble, we are willing to give back, and that's the mindset. We don't think we are masters, we are Swami's children, we are Swami's kids, and we are students basically. And that's the greatest privilege that all of us have.
One thing I realized is in all the Ooty teachers had kept in touch with our parents, not just the principal and the warden. All my teachers knew my parents, and my parents knew everybody. That was one thing. And I, even when this was my third year degree, in third year BCom in 94, I think so, when mother was in her last stages in the hospital, and I visited her, even then she asked, what are you going to do after BCom and things like that at that age. And what I remember at that time is I was speaking to her daughter and grandson, and they said that she was not well, and slowly she became all right. And then when they took her to darshan, Swami asked her, "Are you ready?" And she said yes. And then after that, again she started deteriorating, and till she passed away a few days later. So it was a
Beautiful.
So
Let me ask you a final round of questions just for your time is also a constraint for me. Sorry about that. I know you all can, now the memory has triggered, you all can keep going. So I wanted to just leading because I wish that all the people who are listening to us, they would understand a little bit of, how Bhagwan guides. See, all of you are blessed to be with Bhagwan. So there is a lot of learning which happens by default, and many times we don't even acknowledge what we have received, and it sometimes takes us decades and decades of years or time passes, and we realize, oh my god, this is what Bhagwan had already given us. And it becomes a challenge sometimes to transfer what we have known. It will be a curious thing, and I'm sure many of people, viewers, would always like to know, how do you inculcate these practices or these faith even to your children or to your staff?
okay.
Yes, Pratish, quickly, yeah.
Yeah. So the way I try to do that is through example. Uh, we were taught in school at times to do likhat japam. So my son watches me do that even today. And over a period of time, he developed an interest. And one day he came to me and he said, "Dad, when will I start writing Om Sai Ram?" And I told him, "Very soon. I just have to get you a book and you will soon start writing." And seeing him, my daughter also asked the same question. She said, "Daddy, when will I start writing Om Sai Ram?" So I believe the best way to teach our children is to do it by example. And only in that way, they will be able to understand that, what Swami's love for us is and how we can pass that on. And I'll just quickly add one more incident which took place in April 2020. My son had a project work to do for his school. And the definition was a very wide ranging project work. And it allowed them to do project work on any topic basically under the sun. And one of the topics very specifically mentioned was a place of worship. So he and I discussed and we decided he would do it on Prashant Nilayam. He would do, where is Prashant Nilayam? What is Prashant Nilayam? He would then speak about Swami's mission. He interviewed a few of the students and teachers and non-devotees, and then Swami and eminent Indians who were Swami's devotees, and then we rounded it off by having a small paragraph on the British royal family and Swami, and then the limitations of the project. And the beauty of it was, and we were thrilled when the feedback came from the school. The head examiner had put in a sentence over there. She said, you have made me now want to visit Prashant Nilayam." So she had gone through that project work and seen it. Another teacher told him, "I liked reading about Sai Baba, what I read. But the key for me was, as this project work finished, he came to me one day and he said, 'Daddy, you went to a very, very good school.'" I said, "Of course I went to a very good school. That there is no doubt about it. But what makes you say that to me?" He said, "Because I am just thinking, when I'm of your age, will I be in touch with my school teachers? And even if I'm in touch with them, will they give me time? Will they give my son time like your teachers gave me?" And I said, "I do think that your teachers will give you time, because the relationship between the student and the teacher is very different. They will always give you time, no doubt about that. But whether you would be in touch with them, I can't answer that. And it might be wise to think that that may not be the case." So he has seen us visit our school. He has seen the relationship between the teachers and us, between headmistress auntie and us, warden auntie and us, between all our teachers and us. And that he is now 12 years old. So he's slowly growing up and he's able to think on his own. And this project work did wonders as far as I was concerned. The two things, let's put it into practice.
Thank you, Pradesh. I appreciate your input. Yes, anybody else? Prabhakar.
I think I've already said that. I mean, and it actually resonates with what Pratish was saying, that we have to lead by example. And my job gives me that great opportunity just carry Swami in my heart, and then I consider everybody as being part of that corpus that we call Bhagwan. And at the moment we start doing things which Swami did, selfless love, dedication, devotion, and discipline, and then we reach out and serve, and we say Sarva Karma Bhagavad Prityartham. And if you did everything pleasing unto God, I mean, whatever you did, you're trying to keep yourself as a worthy instrument in Swami's hands, things will come out beautifully because he's the one who's using you.
Thank you. Satish.
For my children, my son is only 4.5 years old, so I don't have anything to comment there. But in the workplace, what kind of impresses people, colleagues and other people is when you're not perturbed by issues that they're perturbed, when you don't have so much of interest in smaller things that they have interest, when you don't gossip and so many other things like this, then after some time they come to you, they try to understand is what is the basis of your worldview. And then when they open up, that's the time you can contribute something at least.
You have punched in a lot of meat in a small sentence. But I appreciate that. Thank you, Satish. Yes, Gaurav.
From the knowledge and experience bank of goodness that we have acquired over these years of stay, I see our children and the colleagues and clients we interact with. I see that they respect, appreciate us more, and want to toe that line. And there is an inquisitiveness in them that what did you go through to choose good over evil? If there is an opportunity for a business opportunity where I have to go the wrong way, I give up that money. I give up that opportunity. So when our kids are seeing us take decisions in day-to-day life, they are getting inspired. They are in their mind making up their course of life, why our parents are doing what they are doing. So I'm very happy that this has gone into our bloodstream, and our parents our children are towing the same line. Very thankful to Swami and the teachers and our parents for giving us this bank of knowledge and experience.
Thank you all very much. I know I would love to talk to all of you, but I like to keep the timing within 2 hours, so it is more palatable for everybody to digest. But I wish to really offer my gratitude to Bhagwan first for these beautiful memories which he has given us, and thank you all, brothers, for taking your time out and willingness to come and share these pearls of memories and wisdom. It has been a wonderful time chatting with you all, and I hope to bring you back again sometimes to hear more about Bhagwan's life, because it is so much wonderful insight which most of us are not privileged and privy to. So I really, from bottom of my heart, thank you very much for joining. And to everybody else, all the viewers, I thank you all for coming, for joining us in this program. And I look forward to your suggestions and thoughts and comments. Please do leave your comments and suggestions for further episodes. And our journey and our saga of Lord will continue. So thank you once again. And thank you all, brothers. Sai Ram to everybody.
Thank you.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram.
Sai Ram. Sai Ram.